I remembered the last evening I spent with my dad. He had held my hand. "You're the only one I trust," he said quietly. At the time, I thought he was just emotional. Now those words echoed in my mind. What they didn't know was I had saved every email he sent, every voice message, every small note. Some were simple, others were full of fear. He talked about pressure, about money, about feeling trapped. He even asked me to help organize his investments. We worked together in secret. I kept copies of everything. One message stood out. "If anything happens to me, you'll know what to do." I listened to it again and again. The bank meeting confirmed my suspicion. My father had placed safeguards. Accounts were monitored. Changes required proof. He had anticipated betrayal. I sat in that office, breathing slowly. I had a plan they never saw coming. I called Megan, my childhood best friend. She arrived the same day. "Tell me everything," she said. We spent nights organizing files and recordings. She looked at me and said, "This is serious. You can expose them." We found proof of manipulation, threats, lies. Megan pushed me to be brave. "You don't owe them silence." Meanwhile, my stepfamily grew louder. They hosted dinners and bragged about money. I heard they planned vacations and renovations. They invited me to a family meeting. The tone was cold. "Come ready to cooperate," my stepbrother warned. I smiled when I hung up. Megan squeezed my hand. "They think they've won." I nodded. "Let them." I acted calm in every conversation. I agreed to attend the final estate meeting. Inside, I felt steady. I wasn't the girl they remembered. I was ready. The lawyer's office was quiet. The sound of a clock ticking filled the room. My stepmother walked in first, confident. My stepbrother followed, smirking. "You finally came to your senses?" he asked. I sat down. "Let's begin." They laughed and mocked me. I stayed calm. The lawyer cleared his throat. "Ms. Bennett has submitted new evidence." My stepmother rolled her eyes. Then the recordings played. My father's voice filled the room. He spoke about pressure and threats. The laughter stopped. Emails appeared on the screen. Proof of isolation, financial control. Panic spread across their faces. "This is fake," my stepbrother said. The lawyer replied, "It has been verified." Then came the final document. My father had changed his will months before his death. He left me authority over key accounts. The bank had frozen assets pending investigation. My stepmother's hands shook. "This can't be." I looked at her. "You erased me from the funeral, but he never erased me from his heart." The lawyer announced possible charges for fraud. Silence filled the room. I stood and walked out. I stepped outside and felt the sun on my face. For the first time in weeks, I breathed freely. I didn't feel revenge. I felt peace. I made sure my father's legacy supported the charities he loved. I sold the house and moved to a new city. My stepfamily faced investigation and public shame. People learned the truth. Slowly, the whispers stopped. I built a life that was calm and strong. I realized justice isn't loud. It's steady and patient. I stopped needing their approval. I finally understood my worth. They tried to bury my place in his life, but truth has a way of rising. If your family ever tried to erase you or rewrite your story, I know that pain. You deserve truth and respect. Share your story in the comments. I'm listening. Subscribe so we can build a community where no one is silenced. Click hype to help this story reach others who've been pushed aside. Your story has power. If you felt a connection to mine, please subscribe and share your journey in the comments. Every hype you give this video helps empower someone else. Thank you for being here and for listening. Don't come. You're not welcome, my stepmother texted the morning of my dad's funeral. When I called, my brother laughed and said, "You were never really family." But 3 weeks later, their panic calls began. My name is Lydia Bennett, and I'm 34 years old. I work as a public school teacher. My life has always been simple, steady, and focused on helping others. I grew up believing family meant loyalty, patience, and quiet sacrifices. After my mom died when I was 12, my dad remarried. His new wife and her son slowly pushed me aside. I was never the favorite. I was the one who stayed quiet, who didn't argue, who tried to keep peace. Even as an adult, I visited my dad, helped with his medical bills, and drove him to appointments. But at family dinners, I was treated like an outsider. I wasn't rich or glamorous. I didn't have a big house or a flashy career, but I had something they didn't expect: patience, discipline, and a strength they never noticed. I believed that one day, truth would matter more than their lies. I just didn't know that day would come so suddenly. If you've ever felt invisible in your own family, hit that subscribe button. I know what it's like to give your heart and still not be enough. Tell me in the comments, have you ever been pushed aside? Click hype and let's remind each other we matter. The morning of my dad's funeral felt unreal. My hands shook as I stared at the message again. I called her, blocked. I called my stepbrother, straight to voicemail. I tried again and again, nothing. I sat on my bed, staring at the wall, feeling like the ground had disappeared under me. A few hours later, my cousin Rachel called. Her voice was low. "Livia, I'm so sorry. They said you didn't want to come." I froze. "What do you mean?" She hesitated. "They told everyone you stopped caring about your dad." My chest hurt. I grabbed my keys and drove to the cemetery. I parked far away and walked slowly, hiding behind trees. I could see them. My stepmother was talking and smiling. My stepbrother was laughing with guests. The sound of people chatting mixed with birds and wind, but it felt distant. Then I heard him. "She hasn't cared about our dad in years," he said loudly. Some relatives looked shocked. Others nodded. I felt their eyes searching, judging. I stepped closer before I could stop myself. My stepmother saw me. Her face turned cold. She walked over and blocked the gate. "You're not family anymore," she said. I tried to speak, but no words came. She turned her back. I stood there until the service ended. I left alone, believing I had lost everything. 3 days later, a letter arrived from my father's bank. They requested a private meeting about his estate. The rumors started quickly. At school, I noticed people whispering. One parent asked, "Are you really fighting your family for money?" I felt sick. I told her it wasn't true, but the damage was done. First betrayal. They had turned my own community against me. Then I heard my stepbrother had sold my dad's car. When I confronted him, he smirked. "You agreed, remember?" I stared at him. "I never did." He leaned closer. "Prove it." Second betrayal. I went home shaking with anger. A week later, my stepmother invited me over. The smell of strong perfume and polished wood filled the room. She pushed papers toward me. "Sign this and give up your claim to the house." I read the document. It erased me completely. "No," I said. Her smile disappeared. "Then we'll make this very public." Third betrayal. I left without looking back. Nights became heavy. I cried alone. But slowly, something changed. I stopped reacting. I began collecting old messages, photos, and emails. I replayed memories. I noticed things I had ignored. My dad had sounded stressed in his last months, controlled, afraid. I realized he had been isolated. My pain turned into focus. They believed they had erased me. They had no idea what I was preparing. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments. If this story touched your heart, Like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more stories about resilience, dignity, and quiet justice. Because some lessons don't come with applause, they come with peace.